6 to 9 p.m. Come meet Tavis Smiley alongside Covenant contributors including Cornel West, Connie Rice, Mark Ridley Thomas, Elisa Orduna, Tyrone Howard, and Melina Abdullah as they sign copies of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. You can purchase your books on site and get them autographed. That's Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m. in the city of Los Angeles. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, two conversations. Up first, professor, culture reporter, and author Ariane Nettles dissects the impact and influence of Black Chicago on the culture with her new book, We Are the Culture. I love that title. We Are the Culture, Black Chicago's Influence on Everything. We'll talk to Ariane Nettles as we head to Chicago in a couple of weeks for the DNC about her new book, We Are the Culture, Black Chicago's Influence on Everything. On the B side of hour two.
You brought up health, Harris. You're an active man. We see you golfing all the time, but if you win, you'll still be president at 82, which is older than Biden is right now.
But not mentally. Look, mentally.
Here's the question.
He's shot. But most people.
Would you consider?
Most people. I know many people in their 80s and their 90s that are in great shape. Some of our greatest leaders. You look at throughout the world history. The greatest leaders, some of the greatest leaders in the world were in their 80s.
But here's the question. Would you consider stepping down if you felt that your health was declining? Or would you?
Oh, absolutely.
And who would
I think I'd know.
How would you make that decision?
I think I'd know. Look.
We will speak with Kadia Goba of Semaphore, one of the three black women who queried Donald Trump at the NABJ gathering last week in Chicago. You heard Kadia there in conversation with former president. So Kadia Goba is our guest on the B side of hour two, one of those three black women who had a chance to go at Donald Trump last week at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention in Chicago. In our third hour,
this generation is so glued to the screens, all for the views, all for the likes, and it's far from the truth. Addicted to the feed, like crack for the fiends, lost in the memes. Times like this, it's all for the fame and the glamorous. Identity crisis, then we all smile for the cameras. Identity crisis, Yeah, feels like my mind is exploding. Locked in and I'm zoned in.
Reggae musical artist Kez Namdi joins us live in studio to talk about his unique familial journal with music and the growing cultural impact of his artistry would do reggae. In our third hour today with Kez here on Tavis Smiley. But in this first hour, let's talk politics with legendary conservative columnist Bill Kristol. Bill Kristol, good to have you on this program, sir. How are you today?
Hey, great to be back with you. How are you?
I'm well, man. If I complained I'd be an ingrate, it's great to hear your voice. Been far too long since we've had a tete-a-tete, so let's do it for the next hour. It's hard to know where to start. So much breaking news always these days when it comes to politics. I think I want to start with this, the obvious. Over the weekend, Kamala Harris secured the number of votes, the number of delegates in the DNC head count, the viral count that it was, to become the official Democratic nominee up until the weekend. We'd been referring to her as the presumptive Democratic nominee. So now the stage is set. Mr. Trump and Ms. Harris will go at it officially come November. Once again, I don't think this is a binary election, but that's just me. Back to Kamala Harris securing the nomination. Now that it's official, Bill Kristol, tell me what you're seeing, and we'll jump from there.
I mean, it is amazing, isn't it, that Biden got out 2 weeks and a day ago, right? It
Yeah,
seems like
no.
it was 2 months, or 6 months, or a year, or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
the assassination attempt was a week before that. That was 3 weeks ago. I mean, it's really been an unbelievable month, and it's not going to get much less unbelievable, I don't guess. Look, she's run an excellent. I mean, Biden. I was always against Biden running again. I thought he should. From the beginning, have said he would want it to be a successful one-term president, and I think he has been a pretty successful one-term president. It's a shame that it took him a year or two to be convinced that he wasn't the right guy for the next 4 years. But Vice President Harris has run an awfully good campaign in the 2 weeks since she stepped up. I assume she was pretty much as surprised by anyone. You know, maybe she did a little planning, but she and her team have risen to the occasion. They've gotten a lot of the Obama people in now, which is good, I think, broadening the kind of the team she's got with her. And now it's one thing to get a bump because Biden was a burden on the ticket, in truth, and he's gone, and then she's done well. It's another thing to keep that going under the kind of attacks and assaults she'll be under. So that's the challenge now.
We'll talk about those attacks when we come forward, Bill Kristol. And speaking of coming forward, a whole lot on the docket today, now that Kamala Harris is the official, no longer presumptive Democratic Party nominee. You heard Bill a moment ago mention that Kamala has brought onto her campaign team, and indeed she has, a number of the Obama people. But David Axelrod helped, as we all know, to lead the Obama effort that won back in 2008. And Axelrod had some strange comments to make over the weekend to The Hill. He said to The Hill that what Democrats are experiencing right now around Kamala Harris, he termed irrational exuberance. Y'all just way too excited. This is David Axelrod, who ran Obama's campaign, saying that what you're seeing right now is what he called irrational exuberance. He then went on to say that this race is still Donald Trump's to lose. That's from David Axelrod, the Obama guy, in 2008. We'll let Bill Kristol respond to that notion of irrational exuberance on the part of Democrats about the Harris nomination. We will also, of course, talk about the Harris campaign that Bill also mentioned a moment ago. They're now running a campaign within a campaign. It's called Republicans for Harris. Now you see why I wanted Bill Kristol on, right? You see I'm connecting these dots? That's why I wanted Bill Kristol on. Republicans for Harris has launched across the country with a number of endorsements by some pretty high-profile, even legendary Republicans who've come out front. Even half of Donald Trump's cabinet is a part of this group called Republicans for Harris. It might be a game changer. So much to talk about in this hour with our friend, conservative columnist Bill Kristol, who I'm glad to have right now on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Have you heard of the 50-30-20 rule? This can help you spend and save your money wisely. So, how does it work? Distribute your dollars into 3 buckets. 50% towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% goes to savings. Use this tool to help your journey to financial success. Sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company. With reported hate crimes rising in recent years, California has responded through outreach efforts across state government and in collaboration with community-based organizations for the launch of CA versus Hate. This non-emergency, multilingual hate crime and incident reporting hotline provides an anonymous reporting option for victims and witnesses of hate acts reported in 15 different languages through the online portal and in over 200 languages when calling the hotline. Report anonymously by calling 833-866-4283. Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or online at any time at cavshate.org.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties. Classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it out.
Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out.
Oh, Downy the rinse straight.
Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes 100% of odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
The smarter way to clean your floors. It's time to make the swap. Swiffer Power Mop.
Introducing the new Swiffer Power Mop, the all-in-one tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. The solution's built right in, so no heavy bucket, and the pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips to get deep into grout. Don't mop harder, mop smarter.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in,
But we're okay with that.
You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
Tavis Smiley and Bill Crystal, who is one half of the team that brings us every day the Bulwark Newsletter. The Bulwark Newsletter, politics and news every morning with Bill Crystal and Andrew Egger. Good reading, and I'm tapping in and checking in to see what the other side is thinking oftentimes. So once again, it's called the Bulwark Newsletter. That's Bulwark. The Bulwark Newsletter brought to you by Andrew Egger and our friend and guest in this hour, Bill Crystal. Bill, again, so much to talk about. Let me start with this. David Axelrod, I mentioned a moment ago, only because you mentioned the Obama people. So Axelrod is the Obama person when it comes to the campaign. There's David Plouffe, many others, but everybody listens to what David Axelrod has to say. We see him all the time on CNN. So when Axelrod speaks, people listen. And so Axelrod this weekend said that he is viewing this enthusiasm on the left as irrational exuberance. Now, one can read that as a pretty mean statement on the one hand. On the other hand, it can be sobering in the sense that he wants to remind people how close this race is, never mind all the irrational exuberance that he sees on display right now. He goes on to say, as I mentioned earlier, that this race is still Donald Trump's to lose. What do you make of his using the term irrational exuberance to describe what he sees happening around the Harris campaign?
I mean, it's funny. I saw David at breakfast with him in Chicago Friday morning, and maybe because we've both been around a lot, we were, of course, looking at the glass half empty, not half full more in our conversation and worrying about all the things that could go wrong. And I don't know if I contributed to David using that phrase, but I feel bad if he's taking a lot of grief for it. I think he intends to just say, hey, this is an even race. I'm not sure Trump is quite ahead, but I just wrote about a poll this morning that has Harris up 3 nationally, 46-43. Very good poll by UMass Amherst, real professional pollsters. On the other hand, if she's ahead by 3, that's pretty even in the Electoral College. So it's a 50-50 proposition still. Vice President Harris has momentum. Let's hope it continues. I hope it continues. I think it probably will a little bit, but again, a lot of things can obviously go the other way, and the Trump people will attack her mercilessly, and they haven't succeeded much so far, but some of these things could stick, and the race card, and I mean, there are a million things going on. So I think he's warning, look, people who are fans, who are enthusiasts, and voters, frankly, it's good that they're exuberant, and it's good that they're excited. But I think people who are really the strategists and the candidates need to keep a calm, sober head about it and really do everything they can to win. This is not the time to get Trump picked Vance, J.D. Vance, in a moment of his own kind of confidence after the assassination attempt at the Republican convention. Biden was, reeling, and Trump just thought he could pick whoever he wanted, no problem, and just, say whatever he wanted. And he still seems to think that based on what he did in Georgia this past weekend. Mm-hmm. And I think he's paying a big price for it. So I think Axelrod was trying to be constructive and telling people to we all need to work unbelievably hard. These swing states are still within a point or two. Some of them are on Trump's side, actually, a point or two. And so, winning is not, because 2 weeks does not make a whole campaign.
Yep. You are still the Bill Kristol I've always known, which is to say that every time you say something, there's something else to unpack. So let me just try to keep up with you, Bill, over the course of this hour. Let me come to this first. I don't know, and you've been at this a little bit longer than I have, but I don't know that in my 30 years of covering these kinds of issues that I have ever seen a race where the polls are all over the place. You've been at this long enough to know that there are times historically in this country politically where we've been fooled by the polls. We all recall, those of us who are poli-sci students, we all recall that headline, Dewey defeats Truman. That's the most infamous, I suspect. Dewey defeats Truman. Didn't actually happen. Truman won that race, as we all know. And everybody, or as we say in my neighborhood, everybody said that Hillary was going to beat Donald Trump. It did not happen. She did in the popular vote, not the Electoral College. We'll come back to that perhaps later in this conversation. But I've never seen a race, Bill, where the polls are all over the place. I don't put my faith, hope, or trust in polls to begin with. I do believe and take seriously patterns. But in this race, there's not even a pattern to follow at this point, Bill.
No, I don't quite agree with that. I think there's a pattern, which is Trump was ahead of Biden. There wasn't much question about that. And now Harris is probably caught up. Maybe she's slightly ahead. I think if you average the polls, you get some read on where public opinion is, with the important caveat, the important stipulation that public opinion changes, as we have just seen in the last 2 weeks. I think in the real world out there are a bunch of people who were not happy about voting for Biden, probably were telling posters they were uncertain whether they would do so or maybe they wouldn't do so, who are now fine with Harris. And then there are some of those people, younger voters of color, others just, upper middle class swing voters who just kind of are Republican-ish, but they deserted Trump in 2016 or certainly in 2020, but weren't really crazy about another 4 years for Biden at age 81. So I think it's pretty reasonable, and I think anyway. So I don't think they're entirely without some guidance there.
I'd only push back in this way, Bill. When I say all over the place, I mean I'm seeing polls every day that have Kamala up slightly, that have other polls that have Trump up slightly. All of them, to your point, are within the margin of error. That's what I mean by all over the place. I couldn't tell you right now who wins this race. If you look at the polls again,
I couldn't either.
That's my point.
No, I think that is the point.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to get worried, I think one thing Axelrod and I talked about, actually.
Right.
The one consistent thing between 2016 and 2020 is that Trump outperformed his polls on Election Day. We all remember Clinton being ahead by 6 or 7, 3, I guess, and that's enough in Electoral College. Biden was ahead by 8, I think the average was on Election Day, won by 4.5. There was always turned out there was kind of a hidden Trump vote. Maybe that's not true this time. Maybe there's a hidden anti-Trump vote. Maybe there's a hidden Harris vote. I'm totally open to that. But it's a good reminder, as you were saying, really, that even if Harris were ahead by 6 right now, you couldn't relax. You shouldn't relax. That's, I think, the key point Axelrod was trying to make.
Yep, maybe you're right about that. Let me pivot now. Again, so much to cover in this conversation. The Veep Stakes is on and popping. I suspect that within the next 24 hours, perhaps by the time I'm back on the air tomorrow, we will know where we are in the Veep Stakes. The Harris campaign has told us they intend to, on Tuesday, start a swing state tour. She'll be campaigning with her running mate. The first stop on that tour is Philadelphia, which has many people believing that her pick may be the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. Neither of us has a crystal ball, but as we are inching closer, it could happen any moment while I'm on the air. Who knows? As we're inching closer to that announcement, Bill, what are you thinking?
So I think you're right about the timing. Obviously, the 5 p.m. Tuesday is the Philadelphia rally, where she'll be with the vice presidential candidate, and then they go together through I think for the whole week through a bunch of swing states. I think that's a good idea, the two of them going together before we get to who it is. I mean, I think it'll be someone youngish, I mean, her age or slightly younger. It'll be a good contrast to Trump. Good contrast, actually, to Trump and Vance, which is a weird ticket when you think about it, Tavis, I think. I mean, Trump is 78, Vance is 39. It's like one is too old. I won't say the other's too young exactly, but he's not very experienced, certainly, and he is kind of weird. So, Harris plus, I think, any of the people, frankly, she's been talking to will be a good contrast. It's good to have, I think the two together will be a little stronger than just each of them campaigning individually. So I think that's a good strategic move by them. They'll probably, I would think, we'll know it before 5 p.m. Tuesday, though, because it'll either leak out or they might do a video and put it out. I think that's what Biden-Harris did in 2020. They put out a video the day before, the two of them, late the day before, the two of them were together, so we could know tonight. And as you say, we could know in 10 minutes the way things are going. Who knows, right? So, I think she's got good choices. I'm for Shapiro just because I think he does help in Pennsylvania, and it's very hard for her to win without Pennsylvania. I also like him and respect him, and I think he's a talented politician, but honestly, I think that, for me, is just a hard-headed political calculation.
Let me handicap that, since you went Josh Shapiro as your favorite. This is not something you have not heard, of course, doing what you do every day. Josh Shapiro is obviously Jewish. Kamala Harris is married to a person, Doug Emhoff, who is Jewish. There are all kinds of Jewish considerations on the table right now. Many people are afraid that we are on the verge of a wider war. I ain't got to unpack that for you. You know exactly what I'm saying. Is that not a drawback, Bill Kristol, for the base, for part of the base, certainly?
Maybe. Maybe. I think almost all those people end up voting for Harris unless they're just so far out there that maybe they weren't going to vote for her in the first place, because after all, she's part of the Biden-Harris administration. If you look, and I say this honestly, it's not where I am, but if you honestly believe that the U.S. is complicit in genocide or something in Gaza, I don't know that you vote for Harris in the first place, right? Because she is the vice president of the current administration, and I think very few people believe that, as extremely as I put it, though. And I think most people, think Harris might be a tick over to the more concerned about the civilian casualties in Gaza side of things than Biden seems to have been, though we don't know what he's done behind the scenes, to be fair. Shapiro has so far been pretty pro-Israel, but also very anti-Netanyahu, more actually than the other candidates. So he's with sort of where Biden is on that, I think. And so I don't think it ends up costing much, and I think it wins, just frankly, politically. I think with Harris already at the top of the ticket, it wins over some of those suburban voters and who might be nervous about Biden, nervous about Harris, because in 2019 she ran pretty far to the left in those primaries. For me, that was then and this is now. She's already repeated some of those positions. Harris might just reassure people, though, and he's been a good governor. Look, Pennsylvania is full of those progressive Democrats, and he has a hugely positive rating in Pennsylvania, right? So.
Nope, I take your point about that. I think we both agree on this. Of all the governors who are on the list of consideration, there's no question in my mind that Shapiro represents the state that Democrats most need to win of those governors, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought we agreed on that. Next on my docket, and this wasn't on my docket initially, but it's jumped on the docket given this conversation over the last 25 minutes. By my count, you have used the word weird 3 times. Now, I'm not surprised by that when it comes out of Rachel Maddow's mouth or Kamala Harris's mouth or the mouths of folk on the left. But Bill Kristol, you are a Republican, and you've embraced this word weird as well.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I'm still a Republican, but I do embrace it. I cautioned, actually, the other day in the newsletter against using it, depending too much on it. At some point, you can't just say it over for 2 months, obviously. But look, I mean, Trump has his own weirdnesses, obviously, including just he can't resist attacking the governor of Georgia, a state he really has to win, or almost has to win, and that he was visiting on Saturday night, where the governor, Brian Kemp, is a pretty conservative Republican, but didn't throw the state to Trump in 2020, to his credit, won re-election easily. Trump attacks him 4 times in his speech, attacks his wife in a really kind of mean-spirited and creepy way. I guess there are other words you could use than weird, and I would use them, like creepy and pretty disgusting, actually. But nonetheless, it is also weird. And Vance, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like some of the views he's embraced, I take it he honestly believes them, but they're not exactly typical of his generation. And And again, they're sort of expressed in a way that I think has a kind of, anyway, whatever. It's a word. I wouldn't overuse it, but I think it applies in this case.
And now I'm laughing because you just used the word anyway. And these days, whenever I hear that word, I think of Joe Biden.
I know. It's funny.
Whenever I hear the word when I think of the word weird, I think of all these Democrats who are embracing that word. But when I hear the word anyway, I think of Joe Biden. For those of you who are really, really watching this, whenever the president gets he starts talking and he gets lost, or he starts pivoting or going off script or just going off period, he'll just stop and say, "Well, anyway," and that's the word. Anyway is his stop sign. Just watch Joe Biden. Pay attention. The word "anyway" is his stop sign. He realizes he's gone too far. He's getting off message. He's off the point. He'll just say "anyway." You've noticed that, Bill Crystal, I assume.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I hadn't really noticed that I also was using it that way. But now I'm using weird. I'm using anyway. God knows what other problems I have in the way.
As I say, you've been at this longer than I have. As I say all the time, what makes great conversation, particularly if you're on this side of the desk asking the questions, if you're the interlocutor, it's charitable listening, what I call generous listening. And so I hear those things when they pop out. And so I just thought I'd underline it or highlight it because I thought it was funny. That said, what is interesting to me, one more thing on Shapiro, and then I'll move to these Republicans. You made it clear earlier you are not a Trump Republican. There are many who feel the same way, and Kamala Harris is tapping into that with Republicans for Harris, a big announcement, which I think may be consequential. We'll get to Republicans for Harris in just a second here. But one last thing on the Shapiro thing, which I found a bit interesting and funny. So Trump said over the weekend that Kamala Harris will lose the Palestinian vote if she chooses Shapiro. I found that laughable because you can't imagine that Trump's policies are going to be any better than the Biden-Harris team's policies in that region of the world. But when Trump says Harris will lose the Palestinian vote if she chooses Shapiro, how do you read that comment?
I mean, it's so Trumpy in so many ways, right? First, as you say, it's kind of contradictory. On the one hand, Trump is proud to be, he claims very pro-Israel and moved the capital to Jerusalem and all this, and now he's worrying, or pretending to worry, that,
exactly.
Harris is going to go too far. But I also like the phrase, the Palestinian vote. I don't think he means literally Palestinian Americans.
Mm-hmm.
There are some, obviously, quite a few tens of thousands. He means, I guess, people who care more about Palestinians than maybe average Americans do. But of course, I love the way I don't love the way, I really actually dislike the way he just categorizes bunches of people as these ethnic groups or racial groups, obviously, and just throws them in that bucket. And he said Jewish people shouldn't be voting for Harris. That's been one of his lines. He tells Jews like me how we're supposed to vote. He tells blacks how they're supposed to vote and what they're supposed to think all the time, right? It's a kind of personal solipsism and arrogance that's pretty astonishing,
No, to say the least. Our guest is Bill Crystal. He is with the Bulwark newsletter. Good reading. Always gives me at least insight to other ways of seeing the issues that we talk about every day. Once again, the Bulwark newsletter, the co-author of that every morning is Bill Crystal, our guest in this hour. When we come forward, we'll talk about Republicans for Harris. I want to read some of the names when we come forward of these former governors and former cabinet members and former members of Congress. It's a pretty impressive list of these Republicans who put their names out front as saying we will never vote for Donald Trump. We are Republicans for Harris. We'll talk about that. $300 million of money she brought in the month of July. You heard Bill talk earlier about the race car that Donald Trump is playing. We'll get his take on that and more when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Hurricane Debbie is moving inland after making landfall in Florida as a Category 1 storm. Simone Biles is adding a silver medal to her collection as she wraps up her time at the Paris Olympics. The African-American gymnast finished behind Brazil's Rebecca Andrade in the women's floor exercise final Monday. Her Team USA teammate Jordan Childs earned the bronze medal. In Alabama, a family is suing the Bay Minette Police Department after a man's death. It's been a couple of years since Otis French Jr., an African-American man, died after being shot in a traffic stop. A lawsuit was filed last week that claims the officer involved was aware that French suffered from a mental illness. The Bay Minette Police Department has already cleared the officer of any wrongdoing. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer custom-made faux wood and real wood blinds and shutters, cellular shades, Roman shades, bamboo shades, exterior shades, and more, all at factory direct prices. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to Blindster.com.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Simone Biles has one more chance to make history in the Summer Olympics. Today is the individual finals in the balance beam and floor exercise. Biles has won 3 gold medals in Paris. If she can win the balance beam and floor, she becomes the first gymnast, male or female, to win 5 gold medals in the same Olympics. Another Olympic highlight today, the first round of the men's 200 meters. The Rams and Chargers practiced together Sunday at the Chargers' new training facility in El Segundo. Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua was unable to finish the joint practice. He bruised his left knee trying to make a catch in the end zone. The Angels and Dodgers won yesterday. The Angels are off today. They start a 3-game series against the Yankees in New York on Tuesday. The Dodgers, they're at home tonight against Philadelphia. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at abacuspays.com, we've created a free policy value calculator so you can find out the worth of your policy in just seconds. There are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at abacuspays.com.
As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up, Oscar!
Freedom is an endless meeting, so let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
For everything that you are doing, and to everyone on the call, thank you for your hard work and all you have been doing over these last many, many, many months. And I know that we are excited about the future, but we also know that we got a lot of work to get there, and we have a lot of work to do. It's good work. We like hard work. And I just want to thank everyone for joining this call. Listen, I think we all approach our campaign with the same spirit, including that this is truly a people-powered campaign. And I would not be on this call right now and with you all were it not for your support and your trust, for which I am deeply grateful. I am honored to be the presumptive Democratic nominee for President of the United States. And I will tell you the tireless work of our delegates, our state leaders and staff has been pivotal in making this moment possible. And your dedication cannot be overstated. Your dedication to our country. You know, I know we all feel this way so strongly. We love our country. We believe in the promise of America. And that's what this campaign is about. So, of course, I will officially accept your nomination next week once the virtual voting period is closed. But already I'm happy to know that we have enough delegates to secure the nomination.
Indeed, she does. That, of course, the voice of Kamala Harris in a call yesterday, a big Zoom call with many of her supporters, delegates. You heard her thanking them for their support in making her the first black woman nominee for a major party. So in case you missed it yesterday or under a rock, Kamala Harris is no longer the presumptive Democratic Party nominee. She is the official Democratic Party nominee, and that in and of itself is historic. I mentioned, of course, Bill Kristol, our guest in this hour, director of Defending Democracy Together. We'll get to that. I love that notion, at least, of defending democracy together. And, of course, I read his stuff, as many others do, every day as co-author he is of the Bulwark newsletter, which gives you some interesting insights. So I'm pleased to have Bill Kristol as our guest, legendary journalist. Pleased to have him on this program. Given that Kamala is the first black woman nominee for any major party, that takes me straight to the race issue, which you raised earlier in this Bill Kristol, in this conversation, rather, Bill, following you. So when you raised the notion of the race card, tell me how you are reading Mr. Trump playing the race card.
I mean, I'm worried about it in the sense that I think people thought he did very badly at the National Association of Black Journalists, and then in Georgia he doubled down on it, or that night, I guess, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, he sort of doubled down. He attacked Vice President Harris, and attacks isn't even the right word, just the fault, the lies about her and her, allegedly changing her identity and all that nonsense. And then they repeated some of it Saturday night. And I hope it backfires, and I hope it just shows that he's out of control and so forth. But I don't know. I mean, it's he's looking for a way. He's always done this in politics, to introduce race into the campaign. He did it in a slightly weird way. You might, if I can use that word again. But it's not a straight out quite racial attack the way some others are. But he sort of got people talking about it and having to explain and answer. It's a way of also introducing the question of sort of phoniness or inauthenticity, right? She doesn't, she says different things to different people. That's a pretty standard attack on politicians, but again, in a racially complected way. So I'm a little worried that I just think we need to take it seriously. This happened This has happened a lot in American politics, and unfortunately and sadly, it sometimes works. And so I hope it doesn't, and I hope people are alert to it, and I hope the Harris campaign, I'm sure they're very alert to it. I don't think she needs to answer it and should. It just looks like what she's supposed to say, But others need to aggressively answer it on her behalf, including not just people who work for her, or Democrats who are, obviously for it, but gets to your other point about the Republicans. This is the kind of thing where some Republicans can say, wait a second, I'm not close personally to Vice President Harris. I don't agree with her on a lot of positions. I might have voted against her in the past if I'm from California or whatever. I certainly don't agree with all the positions she's taken. But this is totally false, and this is wrong. I think it's important that people across the spectrum say that.
Yeah. No, I think she's handled it right, though. You mentioned earlier that she's running a good campaign so far. I could not agree more. I've said many times on this program that the best campaign, certainly one of the best I've ever seen run for president, was the 2008 campaign by the Obama team. They ran a stellar campaign in 2008, and I think Kamala's off to a great start. She's running an excellent campaign, bringing in some of those Obama people. I suspect won't hurt her since they know they've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, so they know how to do this. So she may be aided and abetted by that, but I think that she has handled this race question pretty brilliantly up until now. It makes no sense for anybody black, certainly not a black woman running for president, to get in a tete-a-tete with a white guy about your blackness. That's just stuck on stupid. Why would I debate anybody white about the nature of my blackness? So the fact that she stayed above the fray and is not engaged in not gotten in that cesspool, if I can put it that way, I think is brilliant strategy on her part. So kudos to her for that. You mentioned Republicans a moment ago who ought to be doing as you are doing, saying that this is unacceptable. Donald Trump playing the race card in the way that he is. There are a lot of Republicans who are coming out supporting Kamala Harris. They are calling themselves, obviously, Republicans for Harris. And this launched over the weekend. There are some big names, some former governors like Jim Edgar and Bill Wild and Christy Todd Whitman. Too many to read here. A long list of former members of the House and the Senate. There are mayors. We had Mayor John Giles from Mesa, Arizona, a swing state, more purple now than it used to be. But we've had mayors on this program and others, Republicans who are supporting Donald Trump. Rena Shaw, former RNC delegate, a guest on this program a couple of weeks ago. So we've had a number of these people on this program over the last few weeks or so who are endorsing Donald Trump, even as Republicans. How do I read this, Bill, that some of these, at least Republicans, are coming out rather aggressively, rather boldly, and frankly, rather publicly? There are members of Trump's cabinet on this list supporting Donald Trump, supporting Kamala Harris, that is.
No, I think it's a big deal. I think it's a real opportunity. I'd say the Biden people, I was one of those who supported Biden in 2020, and we had our Republican voters against Trump operation out of Defending Democracy Together.
Mm-hmm.
But the Biden people actually didn't take as much advantage of that as they might have. They might have had one Republican in the cabinet on some less political type, agency, which just requires, or even sub-agency, which requires just competent governments. I think they could have done more conspicuously to reach out to the Mitt Romneys, the Liz Cheneys of the world. They weren't hostile to them at all. They just didn't sort of understand that, a couple of photos of having lunch with Mitt Romney to discuss Ukraine or lunch with Liz Cheney to discuss democracy, it would just signal a kind of openness. I don't think, incidentally, Biden is open in that way. I don't quite understand why they didn't do more politically, but whatever. I think Vice President Harris's team is very aware of this. I think they'll have Republicans, maybe Kinzinger and maybe others at the Democratic convention and make the case for Harris. I hope they can get the higher Republicans would matter. Chris Christie would be great. Liz Cheney, I think, is gettable to support Harris. And some others, my final point would be this. There's some others who won't support Harris. Mike Pence won't support Harris for whatever reason. I suspect Paul Ryan won't. But they won't support Trump. And I think making more of a big deal of that, and maybe having even a cordial discussion with them in private, presumably, but it could get out, right? That, okay, Mike Pence doesn't feel he can support Vice President Harris, fine. But it's pretty amazing to have your own vice president, whom you served with for 4 years, not support you when you went for president again. It's pretty amazing to have the Speaker of the House, who was Speaker for the 2 years when you were president, not support you. So I think they could do even more to get, they don't have to get every Republican to vote for Harris, but they could get more of them they can get some of them to do that,
Yeah.
and they can get some of them not to vote for Trump.
I mentioned earlier that Bill Kristol, as you well know, is a legendary journalist in this country, but he's also a director of Defending Democracy Together. I want to talk about that and what that means, what that looks like. Defending Democracy Together. I'll play devil's advocate in that conversation. You can see where I'm going here on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Tavis is like George and Wheezy. He's moving on up. Last year, Tavis was number 45 on the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Wait for it. Wait for it. The 2024 list was recently released, and Tavis has jumped to number 33 on the list of the nation's most important talkers, making him the highest-ranked African-American on the coveted roster. Congratulations to Tavis Smiley from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got you black.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste, so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
Indeed you are, and I'm glad about it. We are just hours away from, I think what could be argued is the most consequential decision of Kamala Harris's career, political career. That is her VP pick. We will see who that is in the hours to come. We continue our conversation now with Bill Kristol of the Bulwark Newsletter and Director of Defending Democracy Together. Bill, tell me about that part of your work, Defending Democracy Together. What does that look like in this America? Bill Kristol. All right, we have phone issues, so we'll figure that out. I'm just laughing because it's happening way too much here lately. Bill Kristol, are you there?
I'm here.
There you go. Yeah, I was asking about Defending Democracy Together. What does that look like in this America?
Well, we've done a bunch of things. What it looks like is working across the aisle. We're Republicans or ex-Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
We work with a lot of Democrats. We supported a lot of Democrats. We stood up Republican voters against Trump, but also Republicans for the rule of law. We were against some of the election-denying candidates in Arizona and Pennsylvania last cycle in 2022. And we've got Republican voters against Trump again this time. So, and we've done other things at the legislative level in terms of Republicans for Ukraine. So really an attempt to show that there are Republicans. It's a minority, sadly, who care a lot about democracy and are willing to stand up against Trump and the various authoritarian schemes he's both tried to do as president and is in favor of as candidate.
I love the work that you're doing through this organization, Defending Democracy Together, and yet a different question. Again, I love your work, but I'm wondering whether or not as a messaging point you think that works. Biden tried to advance that. I don't know what Kamala's going to do in that regard, but as a messaging point to voters, I'm not sure that mantra of saving democracy is landing the way that they wanted it to or thought it would.
No, I agree with that. In fact, one person who discovered that, I think, was Sarah Longo, who does the focus groups, who's really runs Defending Democracy Together. I'm kind of her, I help out there too. So I'd say this. But one aspect, therefore, of Defending Democracy is actually not to insist on talking only about democracy, but to talk about issues that also are related to democracy that voters can relate to a little more. So one of the things Sarah discovered early on is, voters like to see, they distrust ads, click ads made by, Washington or New York or LA filmmakers, ad makers, talking about highfalutin concepts like democracy. They are interested when people like themselves explain that, hey, I'm a Republican. I voted Republican for 20 years. Maybe I'm pro-life, or I'm a veteran, or I'm, whatever, pro-free market business owner, but I can't vote for Trump. He's too crazy. He's too erratic. He's too dangerous. And those ads we discovered in 2019, 2020 work much better than the strictly produced ads, the kind of person-to-person, talking to your cell phone, people in Pennsylvania saying, I'm Joe from Pennsylvania. And, and in fact, we have their pictures up often on billboards and so forth, and on video, of course, if we put them on digital or on screen. So I agree with you. It can't be a bunch of people lecturing to voters about democracy.
Nope. I think you're right about that. It's got to be a little more granular than that, but I digress. In our remaining moments with Bill Kristol, I want to ask him about an article that I read on the Bulwark newsletter. That's where he writes every morning. I read a piece, as I recall, the title was something like, Kamala Harris can win or lose this race in the next 3 weeks. That piece was written at this point maybe a week or two ago, a couple weeks ago. I forgot the exact date. I know it was late July. But Bill co-authored a piece with Mr. Eggers entitled Kamala Harris, paraphrasing here, can win or lose this race in the next 3 weeks. I want to ask Bill if he remembers writing that article, and if he does remember writing that article, how his what his assessment is of that 3 week period where they argued that she could win or lose this election. We're in that period right now. It's about to come to a close. What's Bill think? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Kind of like choosing Derek Jeter as the pinch hitter for your baseball team.
Jeter, you're in. We need a home run.
I'll give it a try. I've swung a bat once or twice.
That's out of here. Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
He's a paradigm pioneer and the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Bill Crystal, do you recall writing that piece a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, and the point was, it was right after Vice President Harris took over from Joe Biden, and our notion was there were about 3 or 4 weeks till the Democratic convention that she would get defined. She wasn't well known. You know, people like us know her, know who she is, and maybe know her, but people didn't know much about her. And so the Trump campaign was going to really try to define her in a certain way, I thought, and I was worried about that, and I was kind of trying to alert the Harris campaign in a way that they needed to be ready. It turned out they were very ready. They've done a great job, I think, defining her in a positive way. A good job, but still more to be done in defending her against some of the attacks on the border and immigration and crime and so forth. But I think that, yes, this has been a very important, it's unusual, late July and August to be so important. But if you think about it, if she had stumbled and not gotten off to a good start, and they had to find her effectively, and she had made some mistakes, and she were 5 points behind, what would it be like now? So I think it's been a very important 3 or 4 weeks of the campaign.
I wonder, here's my exit question with 2 minutes to go. I wonder whether or not you are concerned at all about her likable numbers. And I raise that only because these numbers matter, obviously. Hillary Clinton could never quite love Hillary, but she can never quite turn the corner, rather, on those likability numbers, number one. On the other hand, Michelle Obama started out early with numbers that were not very good either. But over the course of her first ladyship, and certainly post being in the White House and the best-selling books and all the things she's done, she's the most beloved woman in the country. Everybody loves Michelle Obama now. So clearly those numbers can be turned. Michelle did it. Hillary couldn't quite get there. Historically, Kamala's had low likable numbers. Can she turn that?
Hard to turn them in a campaign. Obviously, Mrs. Obama could do it over 8 years as First Lady. Yeah. So I think it's a challenge, but I think she's done a good job these last 2 weeks just in being, normal. If I can go back to the weird normal thing again. Sure. People may not love her by November. They just need to think, you know what, she's fine. She's fine. She should be a good president. She's not doing anything to alienate people like me. I don't think she needs to make everyone she doesn't need to get some Michelle Obama numbers in the next 3 months. Yeah, that'd be pretty tough to do anyway, but I digress. Bill Crystal is the director of Defending Democracy Together, longtime conservative columnist. He and I have gone back and forth over the years, but I've always respected his point of view. Love the work that he's doing with Defending Democracy Together, and enjoy hearing his thoughts, reading his thoughts in the Bulwark newsletter that comes out every day, every morning, weekday mornings, that is, specifically for me. Bill Crystal, good to have you on, my friend. All the best to you. Have a great rest of the day, sir. Hey, great to be on with you. Really, really great.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for your time, sir. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.